Hello, foodie fans. Welcome to the Big Food Talk, produced by Tough Monkey Entertainment. I'm your host, Sal Conca. This show supports restaurants, chefs, and food pioneers with your help. Head to bigfoodtalk.com to make your donation today, or check out our fun apparel line with proceeds going directly to participating restaurants. Special thanks to the Long Island Food Council, Dine LI Facebook group, and Yelp Long Island for supporting this episode. Today I'm speaking with my good friend Al, the founder of Manna Sauces, known for their pesto and hummus, right here on Long Island. Blending his passions for music, art, and food, Al brings an energy to today's episode you won't want to miss. We discuss his culinary background, tips for the ultimate pesto, and keeping a positive attitude in the changing world we live in. Let's hear Al's story. Hey Al, welcome to the Big Food Talk. I'm excited to have you here today. How's everything going for you during this time?
I live by a motto that life is beautiful no matter what. As long as we're walking on our 2 feet, what's the point of complaining? 1 foot forward.
Absolutely. I mean, you and I know each other personally, and we've met through the Food Council. We've done events together with my company, Big Lou's Onion Sauce, and your positive attitude that you bring to every situation is always great. It's one of the reasons I think you and I have connected.
Thank you. Absolutely. Real recognize real.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. We both of us are creators. We're both musicians. I know you do a lot of DJing. You grew up as a DJ. Let's talk about the sauces, Manna Sauces. Like, when did you start that business?
It was 2015. I kind of had an epiphany that I just thought, as an artist, you have that struggling part in your brain where you think your dream's never going to come true. And sometimes you don't add logic to it, where you say, okay, let me just start off small. You think you have to start off big. And a friend of mine who owns a couple of restaurants now started to sell sandwiches door to door. Now he's got restaurants all over the place. And that always stuck in the back of my head. And then one day on a dark day, just said, do the sauces. And I started to do my research like anybody else would. I got obsessed with it. And literally I became a geek with it. Like those kids that play the magic cards in middle school, those kids are billionaires now. And I literally just became a geek with it, obsessed with it. And I just wrote it out like that as much as possible.
Sure. And I know, because I know you, your passion for food, it goes back further than that. I mean, your family was involved with food. Like, how did you grow up with food? Like, what was your influence into the food?
Well, both grandfathers were chefs and restaurateurs. Both grandfathers had like these underground luncheonettes where they had small menus, and they kind of did that whole small menu thing. Everything on the menu had its own theme. And I used to see my grandfather cook all the time and my other grandfather cook all the time. Both had different styles, which is really cool, all Italian. And basically, we grew up in a household where it was on a Monday, but we knew we were having dinner on a Thursday. So, also too, waking up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning with the smell of olive oil and garlic was necessarily a common thing. They should make an olive oil and garlic candle. I'm surprised they haven't done that yet.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, it's great when you have that background, like when the family cooks and these guys, could be basically your culinary heroes before you even knew what that was, right?
Absolutely. And that's why I wanted to perfect it and become a little bit more obsessed with it. And that's why I decided to go to culinary school. And I never went to college. I went to Nassau for like a couple of weeks until I realized that you'd get in trouble for not going to class. And then I basically stopped going to class. And I'll never forget when I said, okay, I never went to school. I cheated on every test in high school. I want to go to the best culinary school out there. And it was the French Culinary Institute that really, I learned from the French. And I learned from a lot of big French chefs. And I was taught a very strict style of training. And it was like, it didn't make a difference how big you were, how small you were in that school. You learned from them or you were out. And that's what I needed. I needed that type of training.
Kind of like military boot camp for food, yeah?
It was a boot camp for food, but more importantly, everything was from scratch. So you just didn't get wet walnuts out of a can to make a sundae. You made the vanilla ice cream from scratch, the hot fudge from scratch, the wet walnuts from scratch. And you even maybe in some cases had to even crack the walnuts open to get the fresh walnuts. And when you learn how to do that, culinary gets easier. So it's a twisted thing. But also too, I kind of realized after culinary school, I didn't want to be a chef. That was when I was like, this is just too much for me. I don't know if I could deal with this. And then I just, in a sick, twisted way, I started to do the sauces. Also, too, I think now we're seeing it during this, pandemic that chefs don't have days off. Chefs aren't allowed to get 6 days, sick days. Chefs don't, it's they're the frontliners too. Nobody talks about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, restaurant industry is grueling. I mean, every restaurateur and chef that I've spoken to, we know there are no days off when they're, whatever it is with their family, their kids, the sacrifices they have to make, the hours they have to give up. But, like any business that you're passionate about, like you said, you went full on geeked out around sauces and food. You're going to put that heart and soul into it. So you're going to give up your hours, your time to make and build something that's your own. Um, and I know your company with Mana Sauces, it's more than just about hummus and pesto. Like you bring an attitude to it, and I think that stems from your DJ career. Like, so
Absolutely.
when did you get involved with DJing, and how has that like shaped your life?
I was at a block party in Brooklyn, and I saw a DJ play "The Rhythm Is Going to Get You" by Gloria Stefan. And to this day, I ask myself the same question: did the rhythm really get me that night? And it was just, I saw him mix the record once and the crowd went crazy, and then he spun it back, played it again, and then he played it a third time and the place just erupted. And I think that energy always stayed with me. And I was lucky enough to DJ at a lot of my friends were renting out the big clubs in New York City, like the Tunnel, Sound Factory, and they were calling them no ID nights, so anyone could get in between like 13 and 18. And I'll never forget being like 15 years old, dad dropping me off in a station wagon, going into the club with crates and like seeing like 4 or 5 thousand kids in front of me. And that's something that always, that's an element that will always last with me for the rest of my life. And every influence I've ever made, every decision I ever made was always influenced by these turntables right here. And, more or less, I grew up DJing in New York in the 90s. Everything was always hip hop and dance music. So just to have that on my own personal resume, I think is one of the coolest things I've ever done. It was just, and again, DJs don't have sick days also. DJs don't get health benefits for unemployment, and some chefs don't too. So it's like DJs and chefs, they're both intangible. They both kind of very similar in certain things.
Gotcha. So you got the DJing going on. You got this passion for food. You go to culinary school. You come out. You realize you don't want to be a chef. How do you land on hummus? Why hummus?
Um, so the first farmers market I did pesto and I did mayos. And interestingly enough, there was a gentleman across from me that was selling hummus. And I'll never forget, the first day of my farmer's market was in Huntington. And I always made a good pesto and good aiolis. That was my thing. This gentleman came across to me and he had these hummuses. And these hummuses, they had all this crazy energy. You could just tell there was a lot of people there. There were different flavors. He gets a pita, comes up to me. His name is Dave, by the way. And he's like, "Do you like hummus?" Interestingly enough, I used the line, "Do you like hummus?" at farmers markets. But when he asked me that at that given moment, and he goes, "Do you like hummus?" I'll never forget what I said. And I said no. And it makes sense. And then him and I became beyond close. He's like a brother to me. And he taught me how to make hummus. He taught me these recipes, and he was doing it for 6 years. And he had a great culinary background. His family owned camps and things like that, so they were always cooking for thousands of kids, especially him. And he knew the flavor of food. I called him like the Jewish Guy Fieri. And he taught me hummus, I think, better than most other people could ever teach you hummus. And it's a blessing. It really is a blessing.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool the way that story evolved for you, and to have that history and have somebody that you could have as a mentor to show you how to make these things. And your business is more than the hummus, obviously. It's about the pesto and the mayos as well. I'm curious, like pesto, people pretty much know the standard. Are you making different types of pesto? Like how many different varieties of sauces you making?
It's funny because one thing about doing this is that I noticed that I used to do a spicy and I used to do a vegan. And one thing this always happens, Everyone asks, oh, we would love a vegan. You do a vegan, no one gets it. You do a spicy, everyone wants it, no one buys it. So we're like, we're going to stick to traditional and we're going to up the game. Now, our pesto is pretty pricey. We charge, 15 for plastic, 20 for a glass container. Um, People always say to me, oh my God, how are you charging that much? Go out, get the basil, go out, get the pecorino, the pine nuts and all that. You're talking about $70, $80 just to make pesto for the family. One thing that I said, let me stick to just one pesto. And that one pesto we private label to a lot of farms now in Montauk, West Hampton, East Hampton. And that one particular pesto, that one has got me through the door. The vegan one, we're starting to slowly try to bring back on a smaller scale, and we'll see what happens. When it comes to the hummus, that's just God's snack, so everybody likes that. The
Sure.
aiolis, they only last for a couple of days, so that's more like you have to exclusively get that, and that always goes well. But in the end, I said, I'm just going to stick to one pesto, make it the greatest pesto in the world. And just like all my sauces, you could build a theme park around them. Very small menu. They all have their own designs to them, and they all go exclusively with different things. So that's what I try to stick with. I don't try to do too much. I try to do very little. Just like a restaurant, the reason why I didn't want to be a chef is because I didn't want to have a restaurant. And I think people starting to slowly see now that takeout is the king. Takeout, if you could establish yourself as a takeout restaurant and had no seats, where nobody could even come in to use the bathroom, just a clean restaurant, you would have been you would have been
Yeah.
ahead of the game. You would look at Pat's and Geno's in Philly. They're corona proof. They're making more money now than they made beforehand. They're making Super Bowl money when the Eagles won the Super Bowl basically almost every day. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a very different world, and I have a lot of different discussions around, what does the new normal look like? Then other people saying there can't be a new normal. We have to go back to the way things were, and so we're going to be in a lot of flux for a long time. I think that's just the reality of the situation. So businesses that get creative, that can pivot, that can
Yeah.
give people what they want.
Restaurants are scary because you have this overhead and you have this pressure and you have a custom. People expect more for less, and that's the scary part of all of it. And anyone could go on Yelp and make a review about you. Anyone could go on Open Table and make a review about you. And it's just like, I never wanted to get into all that. I never wanted to have a multi-million-dollar chandelier, 30 things on the menu, and all of them be mediocre, and then not pay my staff. Or that's just all scary to me. And I
Mhm.
always even said in culinary school, picking these chefs' brains, like takeout was always my dream thing. And I still have, you know, projects that I'm working on down the road to do something takeout like that. And this is giving me more proof that takeout could be king. Perfect example, Carbone in Manhattan, one of the hardest reservations to get. I don't know how big the seating is, but let's say it's 50 people. So they make their money because they have good prices and things like that. Now, since they're doing takeout, phew, they probably don't want to go back to having seats now because they're probably killing it on takeout. And it goes back to my theory when I was in culinary school, do the complete opposite of what everyone else is doing.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, listen, yeah, we're going to see. It's going to be an interesting way of the world after all this plays out. I'm curious. Let's dig more into the food, though. Like pesto, like you're the king, you're the expert. What makes a pesto stand out? Is it the basil? Is it the pecorino? Is it the olive oil? Is it the nuts? Like, what makes the pesto a pesto?
So this is what we have a special spice blending that we use that is about three different spices that I don't tell anyone. But I will tell you this. There's an old Miles Davis quote that anyone could play. The note is 20%, and the attitude of the guy who played the guy who plays it is 80%. And it's the thought of how you make it. Do you roast your garlic? Do you use an infused olive oil? And we use a special infused olive oil with a special blend of garlic. And more importantly, we make love to these basil leaves. We get it from a special farm out east that supplies us,
Mhm.
and they're grown organically. And it's just you could smell the basil from a mile away. And when you have the process of it, we actually whatever we take off, like what we pick, we try to cook it within a couple of hours. We don't try to pick it, then package it, and then a couple of days later do that. So the easiest one to make is the pesto, but the hardest one is to make the pesto because there's a lot of big process to go into it. We have food processors that need to break that down because anyone can make a pesto, but when I see pesto recipes online, it's like, oh my God, you're not supposed to put lemon juice in it. You're not supposed to put lemon zest. Granted, you could put any cheese you want in it. And there's times I've mixed other cheeses, but the pecorino gives it that boldness. One trick that I use, and it's not giving things up, is fresh granulated black pepper goes a long way in a lot of dishes.
Absolutely.
And, we do the fresh granulated black pepper. And the secret spice is what really gets us ahead. But more importantly, this is what I would tell anyone. Roast your garlic. It makes a night and day difference. And we use roasted garlic in all our products. I never like the flavor of raw garlic. And I think that's what gives us an edge of using roasted garlic. A lot of people, oh my God, you're crazy to use roasted garlic. It's got to take you hours, but it's worth it. And it's the easiest thing. Olive oil, garlic, perfect temperature. You let it sit on the stove for a couple of hours, and then that's it. But more importantly, it's the attitude of what you put into it. And it's knowing what other people's pestos taste like, knowing how yours could be better. And sometimes people in the culinary world, they don't taste other people's things. They think that their stuff is the best. But at this point right now, I'm sick and tired of pestos and hummuses. I can't look at I can't even eat, just like Johnny Depp can't watch his own movies anymore. I can't even eat my own pesto and hummus anymore. Mentally, I know what it tastes like, and physically, I know what it tastes like. But when you do something for over 100,000 hours, you get the hang of it. And I've been doing this well over 100,000 hours.
I get it, man. I mean, I have the company. I got Big Lou's onion sauce, and my wife, every time I crack open a jar here in the house, her eyes roll at this point because she doesn't want to have any part of it anymore.
Yeah, good food brings people together. Good food brings, my whole thing is that I want you to try my pesto and feel like you're in the Magic Kingdom. I want you to try the hummus and be like, oh my God, this can go with 5 things, even if you don't know anything about food. So I want my sauces to make your life easier.
Awesome.
That's how I look at it.
Well, if we're going to the when we're going to the Magic Kingdom, can you actually assert that all of the herbs that go into your pesto are legal herbs?
We're working on it. We got something brewing, and once they make things legal, trust me, I think we're going to be the first to do it. A good friend of mine owns one of the greatest hemp farms in Long Island, and from what I've seen with the benefits of all this stuff, we're working on it. It's something that I have my secret stash, but more importantly, I would love for the people to try it and just see all that. If we were in California, we would be having pesto parties left and right. But soon, that revolution's coming, and it's all healthy, and it all helps the human body.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll sign my mom up for the first in line when that happens, because I know she's going to want to try it. So we'll get her some edible pesto.
Absolutely.
Tell me where can people find Manna sauces? Like, where are you selling right now? I know you do a lot of farmers markets. Do you have any ones that are like your big staple? Where else can people find you?
The biggest right now we're doing online, and we do black labels for a lot of farms out east. You can go to Open Mind Organics and get our stuff right now. The other farms, that's between them and I, but you can go to Open Mind Organics Farm in Southampton, and you're able to get our hummuses and our pestos. Right now, we are doing things online. We officially open. We're more of a seasonal business, so we open up in June. From what I see right now, everything is still ready to open. West Hampton on Saturdays in June, Montauk on Thursdays, and that's where you can get our stuff out there. East Hampton, also too on Saturdays, and Southampton on Sundays. But the ones that I'm personally at are West Hampton and Montauk. And those are Thursdays and Saturdays. And those are our biggest. That's like a show within a show within a show. It's like an arena. It's like an event. One thing I like about that is that it could be 9 o'clock in the morning, and I could see, Jimmy Buffett online ready to get a pesto. See Mariano Rivera with cash in his pockets from everyone. And everyone's cool. Everyone gets together, and there's no egos. There's just people want to eat good food. That's the most important thing. But right now, people want to see who's making their food. That's why Montauk is so sacred to me. So is West Hampton, because you could see they want to see who's buying their food. That movement started in LA, and then it came out here. But the farmers markets were always around in New York. And I think more people now, especially what's going on, they want to see who's making their food. So you could also order online. We slowly are starting to figure out the delivery process. And it's something that I wanted to figure out myself on what to do. And it's been a nice learning curve, but it's been a fun learning curve. But again, life is beautiful. If you do what you do and you love what you do, every day is a blessing. Just don't brag about it because I hate egos.
I
That's
feel
the
you,
most
man.
important.
Well, Al, I know I wish you nothing but continued success in the future. I know you're going to do amazing things with Mana Sauces. I know you and I are going to continue to talk and collaborate and do great things together, man. Is there anything else you want to mention about the businesses or about your work and things that you do?
Well, I just want to say this right now. Right now is a confusing and dark time for all of us. It dulled a lot of people's creative processes, but you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe in yourself. See, there's an old saying, all right? It's a gangster saying and an OG saying, and I could sum it up with one saying. Well, this pandemic is kind of like get rich or die trying now, getting up. But there's an old saying that the whole key to this whole G-ish, G meaning gangster, G meaning yourself, is that knowing no matter what, everything is going to be okay. And if you could accept that, my friend, you'll always be saying life is beautiful. And that's the best way I could sum it up. We will all get through this, and you just got to become a geek about it. You have to become obsessed about it. You have to literally get high on a way out. And if you could do that and you could figure it out, it will get easier. I know certain people have different circumstances than others, and I get it. But the whole key to all this is that knowing that no matter what, everything is going to be okay. Like if Kobe was alive right now, you still could walk on your 2 feet. You can go to a grocery store and get something to eat. Just be happy. That's how I look at it.
I got you, man. And mental positivity is what's going to get a lot of people through this. And, I know there are a lot of people out there that don't have that ability. And, that's why the show is here. That's why, we're bringing positivity to the public so they can hear the great stories and inspirational, triumphs of what companies like you and all these restaurants are doing, because they have to stay focused. They have no choice. They're fighting every day for their livelihood, their families, and their kids. So we appreciate what you're doing, and thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you, my brother, for having me. I love you to death, man, and keep on doing what you're doing, man. And more importantly to everybody out there, life is beautiful. Never forget that.
Thanks, Al. I'll talk to you soon, man.
I'll talk to you later. So have a good one, brother.
Ciao.
Thanks for tuning in to the Big Food Talk, produced by Tough Monkey Entertainment. Subscribe on iTunes and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram for behind-the-scenes takes, or watch complete episodes on YouTube. Don't forget to make a donation at bigfoodtalk.com.